Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5 review. I am, of course, joined by my ring bearer in arms, Zam. How you doing?
Fine, thank you. Never in my life would I have found the Numenor to be so interesting.
Yep, I agree. Actually, things in Numenor are starting to heat up. So overall thoughts on this episode. I thought this was a massive uptake in kind of like the plot and the tension in certain things. Like we've got the dwarves and they're doing their thing with the dwarven rings, and Numenor is on the brink of civil war, uh and there's a fracture between Celebrimbor and Iluvatar.
Sauron.
Sauron, yes. So we've got there's a lot of things happening. I mean, we're on the cusp of the siege of Eregion, so we've got a lot of things happening right now. And I have to say, I mean, it's definitely picked up the pace. So what overall thoughts? What were your thoughts on this episode overall?
It, it, I came to realize by the end of this episode that this episode had no action scenes whatsoever, but it still delivered. You know, I think it could afford to maybe not go down that particular route, and I was happy because I think some of the revelations, and now they're doing the nine rings for men and all of that. It's really cool to see just some things get together. So many elements like the remember when I mentioned earlier about the door that can only be opened in Elvish for Khazad-dûm. You know, we saw that. We saw how that all came to play, and it was like so many elements. Like I think one part when the king of the dwarves, like he was cracking open the mountain, the light came through. I think that may be the same light that we saw shone on that funeral section in Fellowship of the Ring when they were in Khazad-dûm. Maybe that will end up being the same place. I don't know, but there's just so many Easter eggs and that came from this episode. It was brilliant. It really was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're really. I mean, they're as I said, they're really digging into they're really digging into the meat of this season. This episode was definitely like it almost felt like a penultimate episode. Almost like but I know we've
Okay,
still
yeah.
got 3 more episodes left, but I feel like the last 3 episodes are going to be very centered on the siege of Eregion, the fall of Celebrimbor, and Sauron kind of getting his way and making the nine rings of men. I feel like it's going to be very. Um, I feel like there's going to be a lot of betrayal involved. I mean, you can see the seeds that Sauron is sowing. With his
I
own forgers.
I agree. I actually think with 3 episodes to go, I think possibly we might end with the One Ring by the end of the season.
I don't.
Or at least the concept of him making it.
Maybe.
Maybe like a blueprint of it, some shit like that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
you might have something like that, but like, yeah, I think no, definitely we're gonna have the nine rings of men created by the end of the season. I feel like they might give them out by the end of the season, or they'll probably start off next season. Going on their quest to find because Sauron is eventually supposed to go to Numenor. It makes me wonder if he goes to Numenor to give them a ring. You know what I mean? Like, or give them a
yeah,
couple rings. So because
I agree. And
so yeah,
regarding Numenor, just some of as I said, like some of the elements we get to see in the future, like going to another land and rebuilding. I think they hinted on that. Come on, mate, calm down, calm down. They hinted on that, which obviously, in my opinion, means Gondor, and all of that, and the fracturing of the divide among the Numenorians as well. It was interesting to see, but they really were trying to play them as good guy and bad guy in this, which is my only issue. Like Isildur father being the noble good guy, the queen, the good guy, whilst the other dude and his daughter's boyfriend
Oh,
being the bad guy.
our Farazan, which I don't remember the douchebag's name, but our Farazan is the name of the new king of Numenor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Sometimes I find some of these sort of like I wish it was a bit more grey. Then these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. They really are drawing a line, showing that you can distinguish between who's good and who's bad. And I don't actually appreciate that. I wish it was not necessarily that straightforward. But fair enough, it is how it is. And
Yep.
also, I think one of those guys, maybe the one who stabbed thingy's the guy near the end of the episode.
Yeah, it starts with an E. I don't remember. I'm terrible at names.
I would not be surprised if that he ends up getting one of the rings of power.
Oh, absolutely. Either that or no, our Farazan will not probably.
Yeah,
but yeah, the douchebag kid will more than likely get one.
Which ends up being a White Walker. That's fucking Game of Thrones. Nazgul.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. He's going to be one of the Nazgul. I mean, for sure. Trying to find his name really quick, but I can't find. Oh, there he is. Kemen. His name is Kemen.
Yeah, well, and they made sure that you hated him. Yeah, they really wanted you to hate him. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. The douchebag kid's name is Kemen. I'm sorry. The what is the friend's name? Damn, I can't find him. He's not on this list, which is sad because he was great in this episode. I mean,
yeah,
he was. I mean, we didn't see any of Isildur or the Stranger, not Gandalf, in this episode.
Yeah, not Gandalf. Yeah, I was thinking that not Gandalf or is it Isildur and those lot as well? We never saw them either.
Yeah, Isildur, Ariandir. We didn't see any of them, and they were featured prominent. And I get it. Like with how many cast members they have going on, they can't have them in every episode. But it's like, man, like when they really don't have these people in episodes, they don't have these people in episodes. Like, period.
Sometimes you just have to really give other story arcs the time it deserves. To be fleshed out. So what's the point?
Yeah.
And I'm sure next week we'll focus on something else.
Yep. What are your thoughts on Sauron's manipulations? Are they eye rolly, you feel, or do you feel like they're actually doing a good job of making him more of a master manipulator, or is it just like you're kind of rolling your eyes over? Like, I almost rolled my eyes when like he was manipulating the girl, saying that, but you look like, but for a moment there you look like my lady Galadriel, and I'm like, really? And then it worked. I'm like, really? But
it's weird. I mean, yeah, I thought that was a bit cheesy, but I'm more like concerned with how he's like. You can tell he's finding it very hard to wear this mask of being an elf and being a good person or whatever. It's wearing on him. It's just not who he is, And his frustrations with Celebrimbor in this episode was plain to see. He couldn't even pretend to be happy when it came to the charade of creating those 7 rings for the dwarves. Which was just, as I said, it should have been just a charade just to keep things flowing. He still kind of like showed his frustrations. And then when it came to the 9 rings for men, he wasn't being the very suave, sophisticated Sauron who was able to talk people around to his way of thinking. He just kind of showed more frustration and pettiness, which was unusual tactic for him.
I do like the fact though that Celebrimbor did catch him in the act of like when he started making suggestions about like the rings of men. Like he just called him out on it. He's like, so rings of men then, and Iluvatar's like, well, it's Sauron, and is just like, what do you mean, man? Like he's like, really, like you really do Like he's calling him out on his bullcrap, and I like that because that shows that Celebrimbor, however, is being manipulated, does not that it shows he's not stupid. You know what I mean? Like, because if he were just to go along with this whole thing at this point with all the evidence and all the shenanigans going on, I feel like it would be a disservice to the character. It's kind of like Captain Pike in Strange New World season 2. Remember where there were a couple moments in that season where we were like, really, like Captain, you're doing this to Captain Pike? You know, you should be smarter than this. But you know, go ahead.
I'm just thinking though that surely he must have a gut feeling that there's something not right here.
Yeah,
you know,
I do like the fact that that though, you know, Sauron did, however, have a backup plan with like the letter. I'm sure he had that in his back pocket, ready to use that against him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it just felt like Celebrimbor he's like you know, you can tell things are just not going the way he expected to. I mean, like obviously with the Dwarf King, you know, getting a bit doolally, you know, and that was brought to his attention. You know, he knows things are going a bit astray, and then he ends up starts blaming, that girl who apparently looks like Lady Galadriel for why the rings weren't working in the first place. When deep down he knows it's Sauron, he knows it's him. You know, the way
I don't know if he knows it's Sauron. I know he knows that he shouldn't be working with him because remember Galadriel made him swear to not do any more business with him after she left, and he did it anyway. And then I do like how Sauron kind of turned, as I said, like the letter against him when he's like, oh well, deceit is the only difference in the rings. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh, that's good, you know, like, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know if Celebrimbor would be that stupid, but
I know. I'm just saying though, like with Galadriel already telling him not to deal with Sauron, he already is aware of that, and now he is. He's going against her wishes.
Galadriel did not tell Celebrimbor that it was Sauron. She did not. She just told him not to do any more business with him.
Well, fair enough, but she still gave him.
Yeah.
She still like told him, look, just don't deal with this guy. Yeah, and he's not. I mean, and he's picking up on vibes, and yeah, he's still letting himself be manipulated. And he never wanted to build a ring for men, and now, and I really couldn't understand how he ended up doing it, considering Sauron was going to say he was going to do it himself. You know, it was I didn't see all of that, but I think the reason why he's doing the 9 rings for men is that maybe he feels that they faulted with the dwarf rings. So this time they're going to get it right with the 9 rings for men.
I mean, I feel just like he wants to spread his influence far and wide. I think the 1 ring is his, like, I think he's already got the idea for the 1 ring. Like he's already got that ready to go. Not the actual ring, but like once all of the the 18 rings or whatever it was, like once all of those are created and on fingers, like his plan is to reel them all in with that ring. Now, obviously, he didn't get to do that with the elven rings. And I mean, but and even Celebrimbor says it is that the world of men is easily corruptible, and that's why I think he wants 9 rings so that he can even spread his influence further throughout the world of men, and that includes Numenor. They even mentioned Numenor in this episode between the 2 of them.
He doesn't want the rings. He just wants to be able to control everyone who's wearing them.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. He wants to spread his influence as far as he can.
Do you think Sauron is already aware that he has to make the 1 ring? Was this always in his plans, or do you think he'll come to terms with this later on that he has to make 1 ring?
I think so. I think he knows that he has to make a controlling agent. But the problem is as I said, he already knows. So in the original, if I remember correctly, so actually the elven rings were made last. So they did this backwards, and the elves made the rings themselves to counteract the rings of power that Sauron made. So and I mean some of the other like magical elements of like trying to extend their lives and blah blah blah, like like they did in this season, but they did it in opposite order. They did the Elven Rings first, when in all actuality the Elven Rings were last. So it'll be very interesting to see why they did that. I feel like that was purposeful for some reason, and it'll be interesting to kind of see. I mean, it might just be to add drama for this season, but they had the seeds planted last season that they were doing the Elven Rings first. So there's got to be a reason why they did that, because now the dwarves have, well, at least.
Well, it's just like many things. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there is a reason behind it to a degree that makes sense story wise, but sometimes people just stray away from the books and just do things a little bit differently.
And as I said, that's fine. I don't mind that. I'm just saying, like, the reason why in the books, why they made, because they made the Elven Rings after Sauron had already made all the other rings and passed them out. Where so the elves made their own rings, and I don't remember exactly why they made those. Like as I said, I think it had to do with the power, balancing the power of good and evil, blah blah blah, whatever. So I don't exactly remember why they made their rings, but I know that it's been stated many times that I've seen that the Elven Rings were made last. So as I said, I know they did it purposefully for a reason, and that's fine.
It's just good to start seeing these rings have purpose. Like when we saw the healing power from the Elven Ring, the White Elven Ring, that was a good moment. And now we saw this ring being able to
see the mountain.
What structure part of the mountain. And going into the dwarfs a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We got maybe some hints of the Balrog.
Yeah. A lot of some people are saying that
it's coming. It's a bit too early. It feels though.
Well, some people are saying that it's the oh god, what is this stupid thing called? The thing, the squid thing that's outside Moria when the Fellowship gets there. When they get to Moria and then they open the door and then they.
Oh yeah.
God, what is that stupid thing called? I don't remember. But
it's some sort of like mini Kraken.
Yeah. Some people are saying that it's that, and then other people are saying it's the Balrog. I think it's the Balrog. I think they're building up to the Balrog. It is too early for the Balrog to be released in canon, like in Tolkien canon. But as long as they do it well, I don't care when the Balrog gets released from the depths of Khazad-dûm.
I just feel like like there's going to be like 5,000 years between this moment and the Fellowship of the Ring. I remember very clearly Gimli saying, "My cousin, whatever his name is, will give us a warm welcome." So he knows that Khazad-dûm is still going well, as far as he was concerned.
Actually, I actually got some information on that. Howdy, William Wells.
William.
Welcome to our review of Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power. Actually, I did some research on that because I was wondering the same thing last week. Apparently, in the Lord of the Rings, Gimli's brother or cousin or something like that led a party to Khazad-dûm to take back Khazad-dûm from the goblins and the orcs. And so Gimli, this is what they're telling me. As I said, Gimli apparently was so confident that his brother, cousin, whatever he was, succeeded in taking back Khazad-dûm that he just assumed that they were there. Now, does that explain why everything looks so ancient? No, but that's kind of the best explanation I got. His name was Borin
Bowling or something like that.
Yeah. So I actually got an answer to that one, which, as I said, I mean, okay, you know what I mean? Like it never, sure. I didn't see really any fresh bodies there, but
yeah, there's a lot of corpses.
Yeah, they were definitely they were all covered in there were bones covered in spider webs, and so I mean, that's the best answer that I've gotten on that is why Gimli thought things were going well in Khazad-dûm is just because he was a bit arrogant, So I don't know.
Yep. Like I said regarding Numenor, with the split now between these factions, with what's his face, not Michael Sheen. I'm going to call him because he looks so much like Michael Sheen, the guy who's this new king.
Farazan.
Farazan, yeah. He's expecting everyone to follow him, and it becomes such a thing now that he's declaring martial law, and if you're not going to follow him, then you get ostracized and all of that. Obviously, the captain of the guard, he obviously is going to stand by the original queen. And I almost saw a moment there where I thought they had some sort of romantic connection.
I think they imply that heavily is that because he does say we chose this life, we chose, and so I think there might have been something before, like that they just really hadn't talked about before. But the way they made it sound was like, they basically were like, we love each other, but we chose the life of, captain of the guard, and you're the queen, so we can't do this. That's kind of the inkling I got from that conversation.
Well, he ended up having to give up his position, so he's no longer captain. I did think there was going to be a moment where a whole bunch of people were going to walk out with him. It felt like that. In a way, I'm glad it didn't go that cliched because that would have been a bit silly. But regardless,
but they also gave him the standing salute as he left. I mean, like.
Well, he's an honorable man,
yeah.
and they want to make sure that I'm sorry, darling. They want to make sure that you know that. So, yeah, and we kind of got those moments kind of like tied up in a way later on in this episode when they had that battle by the water.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you think about all that? Like,
well, I was shocked. I was shocked at the death of that kid. Like,
you mean young Dwayne the Rock Johnson? He reminded me of Rocky Maivia with like with longer hair.
Oh, really? Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
I think is he an actor? Somebody said that too. Like he looks like, and I'm like, is he like the actor who played younger Rock?
No, maybe? He's not him. I'll be able to. But I watched Young Rock. Okay, I'll be able to pick that. But I think he might be a Maori, like Tamira Morrison. Like a New Zealand actor, like a native New Zealander. So yeah, or maybe like somebody definitely from like those Fijian islands, Samoan islands, and stuff like that. And regardless, when he got killed off, I did not see that. He did the honourable thing of not killing off the worm tongue of this series, that kid, the other kid, and then he gets stabbed in the back. Ironically, I mean,
yeah, I mean. No, they really want you to hate this piece of shit. Like they really do.
Yeah, exactly. And he's good friends with Osgiliath, and so Osgiliath's father looks at him like a son, and that was a really sad moment. Died in Osgiliath's father's arms. Probably no better place for him to want to die, to tell you the truth. And yeah,
I mean, and honestly, it's going to be interesting to see how his daughter reacts to that, because I mean, they even said earlier in the episode, "You're my oldest friend." So will that then turn her away from Farazan and his legions and Cayman, the douchebag? Will she finally be like, you know what, I'm going to stand with my dad? No matter what happens.
It's really hard to tell with her because the fact
that or she's going to double down.
It's really hard to tell with her because she's in the position where her father could have easily been in prison and she probably would have accepted that. So it's very hard to tell and considering her father's still alive, regardless of her friend being killed, and it was in battle, even though the fight was over and he stabbed him in the back. But she'll never be aware of this because she'll have to go with hearsay. Yeah, it's very hard to tell. It's a tough call. I mean, when your daughter is willing to be the way she was in earlier on, it's hard to say whether she'll see the light. It really is.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, it can go either way. I mean, I'm thinking that might be where they're going with it, but if not, I mean, I'm okay with it. Like, you know, Eliendil was, um, Eliendil, the captain was, I'm really like, as I said, it's almost like whiplash inducing how this Numenor stuff went from boring to good. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like I almost got whiplash at how I'm like, whoa, like this has gotten really good all of a sudden. And like, you know, it's kind of
Well,
boring because Numenor came back in the third episode, and then there was a little bit in the fourth, wasn't there?
with that eagle and stuff like that, and I guess, but I was already telling you how I wasn't finding it too interesting. I mean, it was political in the wrong sense. However, like I said earlier, with the hints of maybe Gondor in the future, with them telling about rebuilding and all of that, it really there was like I said, there was just so much in this episode, not just with Numenor, but with various other things that really made you appreciate the Lord of the Rings films, and it really was trying to connect itself to the Peter Jackson film, because that fucking door, you know, for Khazad-dûm looked exactly like the door from fucking Fellowship of the Ring.
Well, but the thing is they had to do that now or never, because the thing is that the siege of Eregion is happening. Celebrimbor and not Nori, that's the Hobbit, the dwarf that was there. It starts with an N. I don't remember his name, but those two were the ones who were supposed to create those doors, and it had to happen. Either, as I said, it's now or never, because the siege of Eregion happens. We don't know, like Celebrimbor. I know what happens in the books. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you know it. You know, just in case if it happens. But like, there's a lot happens, so it was either now or never with those doors. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
because as I said, the siege has happened in like next episode.
I'm just happy that we got it made sense for me, because I did question it earlier. I said, why the hell have the dwarves got a set of don't even think about it. Why the hell have the dwarves got a set of doors that could only be opened in Elvish? And now it makes sense, and I'm really happy that that was explained, and this momentary sort of alliance between dwarves and elves. Yeah, it goes up and down, doesn't it? You know, like
well. Okay, again, here's me bringing my research out. In the original, the dwarves of the Misty Mountains and Khazad-dûm had good standing with the elves of Eregion. That's where Eregion got like most of their alloys from.
Yeah, the materials.
So
Yeah,
they've always like so. Again, this is book canon. I'm not saying that it's bad because it's not the same. I'm just saying like, but that's the reason why it was like they always had a good working relationship. And obviously in Rings of Power, it's a little more contentious, a little more, they're doing it to create drama between the elves and the dwarves, which is fine. I don't mind that. As I said, we got some of our best stuff in season 1 because of the contention between Durin and Elrond, and the elves and the dwarves. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying like, so that's kind of why those doors were kind of a thing. But in aspect of the show, that's why it was either now or never for them to do it, So as I said, stuff's about to go down and they had to do it, which it made sense to me. Like in the show's aspect, it made sense because because you're right. They just did kind of come together and they are being friendly now and stuff like that. Yeah.
and the relationship is very up and down.
Oh yeah.
They'll be friends. They're friends now. They'll hate each other later on. They'll be friends again after that, and then so on and so on and so on, and maybe certain alliances for the sake of convenience, than necessarily friendship as well at times.
What did you think about some of the dwarven? I mean, I know he's touched a little bit on it, but what did you think about like Durin, the Prince Durin, and his interactions with King Durin after the ring started taking hold, and like.
No, he knew his dad was fucked up when he started being good to him.
Yeah, right.
Like, I'm proud of you, son.
And I love that look, and he just sold that so well. That look on his face, like, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so he's able to pick up on that. But even then, even though he tried to make his father, he always failed with his father to do the right thing. And in this particular case, even though his father has had a change of personality, he still couldn't get his father around to his way of thinking, and he ended up aligning himself with his father furthermore by becoming prince again. And his wife knows there's something up as well. I mean, she picked up on it when it was so funny. Like, she drops that ball and she ends up in this fucking cavern. And
I know that ball like has a rocket pack on it or something because it went far.
No, but the point is, like, how the fuck have you never seen to this cavern before? Like, you guys live in this goddamn mountain. You've been to every crevice, and all of a sudden, this has just been discovered because you dropped a fucking ball. You know, it was really, really stupid, mate. You gotta stop talking. All right, and yeah. So, like I said, that was all a little bit bizarre.
Yeah,
and then she mentioned about the Balrog to her husband, who then tried to tell the king about that, but he has no interest. Like, yeah, my son was right about the elves, but now he's not right about this.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was like, I'm like, he's crazy because at this point, because he's not acting himself. He's denying pure and unadulterated facts too. The taxes, the greed.
Was he suffering from the same sickness the dwarves from the Hobbit had when it came to the Lonely Mountain?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Because I mean, they gathered too many riches, and then Smaug basically, killed them.
Because I forgot the name of the lead dwarf.
Thorin.
Is it foreign?
The lead dwarf was
like the lead, the king of the dwarfs. Frayne or Thorin or something like that.
And it wasn't Durin. Durin's the king and the prince in the show. Yeah, I think it's Thorin.
But he ended up obviously succumbing to the sort of virus of the greed of what the mountain does to you. And prior to that, it was actually Smaug. He actually suffered that same condition.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want to part with a single penny of the gold, even though he is never going to spend it. It was bizarre. But looking at the king in this episode, I think to myself, even though you seem a bit more jovial, there are elements of you that remind me of what the dwarves suffered from the Lonely Mountain. So, yeah.
Well, and I mean I don't think it was a ring though. I don't think it was a ring.
That faction of dwarfs, though, would they have had one of those rings of power?
Yeah, they probably would have, because
king.
Yeah, because he's one of the kings of one of the different one of the different 7 dwarven realms or regions, or whatever they're part of. Yeah, they would be one of the 7 dwarf lords. So I mean, there might have been a ring involved in that one. It's just the same thing. Like they were greedy and they gathered too much, and then Smaug came along and did his thing.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. System.
Yep, just bringing it up.
Welcome.
Also, William Wells tells us to check out a Star Trek fan film called Blue Nose. We will maybe take a look at that in the near future.
Maybe we'll critique it.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you ask for with us sometimes,
We might fucking critique the fuck out of it.
I don't know, anything else about this episode that really sticks out to you?
We're fine, thank you, Mr. System. I hope you're good. Like I said, it just really, we're only into season 2, but to see so many things come together is really satisfactory. Now, they said they were going to make 5 seasons out of this, so it made me wonder, will we get time jumps at all at certain points?
I think I said that last week. I was thinking we might get some time jumps. I'm trying to remember the timeline, because I don't think it's just 5 years until the battle of Middle Earth. There's got to be at least several years, between where we're at now and the War of the Ring.
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, what do you think about the new video game where you play as a dwarf?
I have not even seen. I've heard of it, but I have not seen
You
or
sure about,
played it.
is that what? Is that a video game? You sure you're not talking about the one where you played Gollum?
No,
Did you talk about
there's a game right now that's out that's called something of Moria. Hold on. But I've seen people playing it. Like I haven't seen people play, but like I've seen like trailers for it and stuff like that. Oh, where's it at? Trying to bring up. There's a Lord of the Rings online. I didn't know that. But yeah, I know I've heard. Oh, Return to Moria.
Okay.
Return to Moria follows the dwarves as they embark on a new adventure to reclaim their legendary home. I bet you anything this is Balin, like the what happens with Balin. Maybe, or maybe this takes place after Return of the King. Maybe, I don't know. As I said, I'm not super familiar with it. I've seen some people. I've seen like promo stuff for it, but I've not actually played it nor watched anyone actually play it. So I've not even really seen much gameplay. But I'd be interested to check it out. I mean, you know, I'm always interested. Right now, I'm actually neck deep in the Hogwarts Legacy game. You know,
how are you finding that?
I like it. I think it's a good expansion into the Harry Potter, like the wizardry world. You know, like realm. You know, like there's a lot to it, and there's a lot you learn. So I actually really like it. You know me. Like I take Harry Potter like I take Star Wars. Like anything I can get outside the Skywalker saga, I'm actually happy with. So this is outside the Harry Potter saga.
Yeah.
So I'm actually very happy with this. I think it's really good so far.
Fair enough. I'm going to check out that trailer as well later on, but I'm curious now. So, yeah. Well, I don't know much more I could add to regarding this episode. Just like I said, seeing the dots connect and where our characters are at as people regarding some of the Numenorians, as well as obviously Sauron and Celebrimbor. Very little of Galadriel. We got it right at the very, very end.
Oh yeah, I forgot to bring that up. Like, yeah, like, so is Adar thinking that he's going to win her over so that they can destroy? Like, I would honestly make Galadriel. I would release Galadriel into Eregion to get Sauron. Like, why would you invade Eregion if if you just have Galadriel there who can literally walk into Eregion and like go after Sauron? Like, I'm not saying she'd be able to kill him outright, but like that's a lot easier than trying to siege a whole city. So I mean, I don't know.
No, I agree.
I don't know if like Adar's playing like a double cross here, where like he sends her in after Sauron, but then he also attacks anyway. You know what I mean? Like while she's in there, I don't know. So I think it did leave a weird taste for next episode. I'll be interested to see where they're going with that. But honestly,
does that guy possibly end up being her husband? In
who? Adar?
Yeah, like does she convert him? No, okay, just making sure. Sorry, just wondering.
Yeah, no. And technically, as I said, according to the books, so this is another book thing, she should technically already be married and have kids. Now they haven't mentioned it. And I'm not saying they don't exist yet. But they've never mentioned it. So
yeah. No Elrond, by the way, in this episode either.
He was there. He had one or two spots. Yeah, I remember he was running through the forest and he dropped his cloak, and then he was talking to the High King at the end.
That was so brief, I fucking forgot. Yeah. We saw the orcs, by the way, going towards the elven kingdom.
Yeah, Eregion. Well. Yeah. Eregion, that's where Celebrimbor is. Like that's
exactly. Yeah.
So everything's going to come into a head right there.
I don't know. Do you think this is planned by Sauron?
I think it is. I think Sauron wants the orcs to be there, and he wants I think he's planned it out. That's why he's kind of in a hurry to get these rings done. Like, he doesn't have time to mess around with Celebrimbor doing all these side projects because he knows that the orcs are coming and he knows that the orcs are coming, and so he wants to get all of these rings done so he can, take them and and distribute them. Like, I think he knows that his time in Eregion is coming to a close, and that's why he wants to get it done so that he can move on with his plan. Because
Yeah,
I don't think Celebrimbor is going to be the one passing out the rings. I think Sauron is going to, like, they're going to make the rings. Sauron's going to take them, and then he's going to go to Numenor to kind of, like, not subvert, but like start manipulating them over there. And I think that's probably going to be next season. So I think Sauron's going to move from Eregion over to Numenor.
It'll be interesting to see who the 9 ring bearers are for the rings of men, because we already kind of got a glimpse of, even though very briefly, because they're not main characters. We saw who the dwarf ones were. We already know who the elves. So we will have to figure out the men's one. I'm sure this season. I don't think they're going to stretch it out till next.
I think they're gonna stretch it out till next season. I think the rings of men will be created this season.
Yeah,
but I think Sauron's gonna get away with those rings, and then that's when the siege of Eregion happens, and just everything gets wiped out. Like,
but I think he's going to do the One Ring at Mount Doom.
He will
forge them. Yeah, he's forged them.
Yeah, no, he does. He forges the One Ring in Mount Doom. Yes, but that's why he's also doing, all the other rings here in Eregion. So
yeah, and I think he'll have the 9 rings built before the siege happens.
Yeah, I think they will be made. I just think that I think Celebrimbor is going to realize who he is, and I think he's going to try to destroy the rings. And Sauron is going to get the rings by the end, and he's going to, as I said, Celebrimbor is not going to make it out of Eregion with the rings. Sauron is going to escape with the rings, and he is going to distribute them to the world of men.
Well, I can't wait till that happens. It's gonna be. I'm really waiting. I'm just dying just to see all these puzzle pieces just come into play and fall into place. The stuff that we know through legend and lore. Just from an opening exposition scene from the first Lord of the Rings movie, and we're just seeing all of that come into play in this particular series. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
William Wells says, I wonder if they're going to have have Gollum for cameo. No, they won't.
No, it's too early for Gollum.
I mean, they might have Smeagol, who but even then I'm not sure, because
I think after the War of the Ring, it's still like, I think maybe hundreds of years.
Yeah. I mean, how long was that bloody ring in that lake for?
Yeah, it was probably. I think they said it was in there for like hundreds of years, and then that's when Smeagol found it. So I mean, Smeagol was a normal hobbit when he found it, so it's not like he has long life. So no, we are not going to get a Smeagol cameo or Gollum cameo.
How old was Smeagol, by the way? Do you know?
How old is he?
Before he died.
I don't know, but I will look it up. That's a good question.
Because like I says, when Osgiliath got the One Ring, that was 5,000 years ago from Fellowship, or from the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
No, not how old Goliath was from David and Goliath. I went Gollum autocorrect. What? 600 years old.
Okay, so that means that ring was in the lake for 4,400 years at least.
Yep. Was almost 600 when the ring was destroyed. The ring's influence extended Gollum's life far beyond the average hobbit lifespan, which is over 100 years. So they're guesstimating that he was 589. His birth was in the third age of 2430. His death was on March 25th in the third age at 3019, which was the very end of Lord of the Rings. So there we go.
Yeah. Fair enough. I think we should mark it.
Yeah, just reading one other thing here. Okay, so somebody was talking about how did Gollum survive 60 years after losing the One Ring if he was that
He
old?
was so transformed,
Yeah,
it was different to Bilbo. Like Bilbo only had it for a
yeah,
much shorter period of time, so he stayed young for a little while. The moment he lost the ring, he immediately aged. While Gollum had it for such a long time that it pretty much transformed him.
yeah. It basically says that just the effects on him lingered for that long. So, anyway, okay, all right. Yeah, Marks. Do we want to do a poll on this one? I don't.
Nah, fuck
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
I
I'm
like this
going to
episode.
agree. I'm going to give it an
Good
8 out of
episode.
10 as well.
It was a good episode, and once again, I like it when things start. Things have meaning. It wasn't just an episode for the sake of it, not filler at all. We had dots connected. Didn't need an action scene, which is a credit to this episode as well, because I always said that some of these episodes, my problem with the original with season 1 was that there was hardly any fucking action in it, whilst season 2 has had a decent amount of action in it. But at the same time, you can warrant an actionless episode if you are giving a very well developed story, and we got that in this episode. And the other episodes have been well developed regarding storyline too, regardless of the action scenes. And we also did not have all the more recognizable characters in this episode too. We were dealing with the Numenorians, who, in my opinion, are the least interesting characters in this series, and they ended up being very interesting. So credit is where credit is due. It gets the 8 out of 10.
Yep, I agree. I really feel like things are picking up. I really am enjoying, like they're building tension in a good way, between Iluvatar and or Anatar. I'm getting names mixed up now, but Sauron and Celebrimbor. I like this tension there. I love the tension on Numenor. You're right. Like this Numenor has kind of gone from the least interesting thing from this show to not the most. I don't want to say it's the most interesting thing, but it has definitely moved up a couple
more
times.
It's more interesting now, and I'm happy to go there regarding story beats in future episodes.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of this stuff goes down. Numenor has a long way to fall, though, they're on the right track. But before the fall of Numenor, they got a long way to go. But yeah. All right. So eight's around for both me and you, and another good episode. So everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you very much for joining us here for Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 2, Episode 5, Hall of Stones. Which is obviously a reference to the Lord of the Rings poem when in the beginning when they were giving out the rings. I forgot to mention that earlier, but yeah. So I think it's great. I think they're leaving us in a good place, and I think the next 3 episodes are going to be really interesting. With all that being said, Zam, do we have anything coming up we need to promote? We got.
We have the Tulsa King starting from next week, season 2. We'll be reviewing that. I think you mentioned the Penguin as well, and there are reviews of other shows that I've been watching. When I get round to it, when I can be bothered, I'll try to do a review of The Perfect Couple, which is a whodunit that I saw not too long ago. What about Gandalf? Well, we don't know. There's a not Gandalf who might be Gandalf, but we don't know. He could be such a red herring. He could be Saruman. Some people are suggesting. So we don't know. We'll find out.
Yep, we will find out next week. Well, no, we're not going to find out next week. I do believe we will see more of the Stranger and Tom Bombadil next week.
Tom Bombadil for sure. We need a bit more of him.
Yeah, we'll definitely have more of him, and we'll probably get back with Isildur and Ariandir and them. So, yeah. So with all that being said, everybody, thank you very much for joining us here. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. We are NerdTube. Remember it.